Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're well. I'm just going to start today's session off by doing a quick sound check. So if you can hear me, please type yes in the chat box. Just lets me know that we are live and you can hear us. Can you all hear me? Perfect. Couple more. Can everybody hear me? I've only got a couple of answers so far. You just stick yes in your chat box for me. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you doing that. So thank you for taking the time to join our webinar session today, looking at customer services and accessibility. And this is brought to you in partnership with Customer Touchpoint. My name is Chantel Newton, and I'm the Marketing Manager at the UK Contact Centre Forum. I've just got a few housekeeping points to go through before we begin. Our webinar session is fully interactive today, and we do have some polls for you to participate in. So when prompted, the polls should appear automatically on your screen, and there will be time for you to vote. I'll close the polls down then, and the results will be shown for our presenters to discuss. We will be taking your questions throughout the session today. So if you do have a question for the team at Customer Touchpoint, please type them into the chat box that you've just used to do the sound check. So the webinar is expected to last approximately 45 minutes to an hour. If you are unable to stay the whole session, the webinar is being recorded and the link will be emailed to everybody within 24 hours of the webinar ending. So today I'm joined by two of the team at Customer Touchpoint. We have Rick Kirkham, Founder and Managing Director, and Doogie Nicole, Head of Digital and Customer Operations. So to get today's presentation started, I'm going to pass you over to Rick. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks very much, Chantal, and good morning, everybody. I'll just put my camera on. I think, Chantal, have you given me the presenter rights on the slide?
I have, yeah.
Okay, hang on. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, hi everybody. I'll just pop my webcam on for a moment, just so you can see. Thanks very much for joining. We're really passionate about this topic, and accessibility in customer contact is such an important thing for reasons close to home, and also just through experience of all the projects that we've done over the years. So I'll just quickly touch on what we're going to talk through. We're going to look at defining what we mean by accessibility in this context, and then we've got an approach based on 5 steps to success in this area. And what we mean by success is to create an accessible for all customer contact operation. Then just summarize at the end, and I think it'd be really interesting with the polls that we go through. We've got some live polls here, but we've also been running a live survey for the last couple of months, which has been shared with many contact centre people and other industries via UKCCF and ourselves. So we'll be able to compare and contrast the results that we get through those polls today with those other survey that we've been running, and then talk through questions. As Chantal rightly points out, we are going to take questions all the way through. I'm very happy to have a conversation if anyone wants to pop a message in the chat, and also wrap up and take some more at the end. And towards the end, we'll also just touch on what we actually do in this area as far as offering our customer experience accessibility audit, which is quite a new thing, and in partnership with our charity partner, We Are Purple. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how you can access this as well. And then we shall wrap up. So before we move into that, I will just try and make the slides move. There we go. So yeah, Doogie's with me here speaking today as well. And just a quick background on me. So I've been working in customer contact improvement projects for around 15 years and set up Customer Touchpoints 6 years ago. And the reason I did that was over those experience of those projects in previous roles beforehand, really developed a deep understanding of how customers interact with contact systems, and ultimately remembering that actually we're just people that go through these things, and people that have feelings and react in certain ways to different things, either positively or negatively. And actually, as well as making technology work in the right way and getting the best out of it, actually we need to bring that understanding of people as well and behavior, and bring those two things together. As a business, anyone that's heard us speak before will know that we always talk about an approach to making everything that we do win-win, and that's making sure that everything we implement and all the projects actually win for the business by making them more efficient, and enhancing their customer experience. And in doing so as well, at the same time, one of the main ways you get that is actually improving the experience for customers, but also making sure they can interact well, they can communicate with you easily and efficiently. And that doesn't always mean taking a call. It might well mean encourage them and implementing strategies to help people self-serve more effectively as well, while also retaining the understanding that no matter how good and how much investment you put into digital platforms, for some reasons and for some people, they just want to talk to live people to get that human type interaction. So trying to bring all of that together. That's a little bit on my background, and I'll just hand over to Doogie.
Thanks, Rick. Morning, everyone. So my name is Doogie Nichol, Head of Digital and Customer Ops at Customer Touchpoint. My background is very much customer facing. I've been working with customers and accounts for over 20 years, been a contact center manager, and moved into the technology aspect probably about 15 years ago. So looking at designing technology, developing it, implementing it into businesses, integrating with current systems, how we best deploy that, and how it works for the business, but also for the consumer. It's really important to ensure that your technology is not just for the business or just for the consumer. It has to be for both, and has to be beneficial for both. So that's kind of what I do in the business. If you ever interact with us, you'll definitely come across me. So apologies in advance for that, but I shall pass you back to Rick.
You make everything happen, I think, Doogie. That's the summary. Get stuff done. So thank you for that. And yeah, really good, valuable background, having worked in contact centers for so long, and understanding what it's like is a big benefit. So so I'll just move on to setting the scene. We've talked a little bit about the business, and I don't want to labour this point today because we're here to talk about the subject, but really as a business, we're all about helping organisations to deliver effortless customer experiences while reducing the overall cost of contact, back to that win-win. And on the diagram there's 4 main points about that. So influencing customer behaviour, again, just worth talking about influence as well there. So what we mean by influence is influencing the outcome positively so that both parties benefit. It very much ties into the win-win aspect. So if only one aspect, if only the business is going to benefit from something, then it's not considered influence from our point of view. So it has to work for both, and to do that you have to really understand how to engage customers and get them being an active part of the journey that they're going through. Then all the other aspects on there, the 4 parts of that circle, all come together to create the type of contact center operation that works for everybody involved. Okay, and then so again, just as a business, we work with a lot of well-known brands, a lot of complicated multi-site contact center projects, and that experience has taught us a lot. We learned a lot from it, and we always bring that with us. And from a technology point of view, we're completely independent as a business. We have no ties to any other business, and that allows us to go out to the market and work with best of breed suppliers that we know well, and actually really helps get the best out of those technologies as well. So whatever, it can be a bit difficult, and Doogie will touch on this a bit later, to actually pick out the right technology for your needs, and we can help with that as well. Okay, so moving on to accessibility itself, just want to talk about sort of what we mean. And I think previously a lot of the physical aspects that were more visible are probably what people think about, but as contact centers tend to be a remote, and particularly post-COVID, where a lot of face-to-face work was actually reduced or made almost impossible for a period of time, understanding spotting and being able to do something about an accessibility issue for somebody has become harder. So sort of one of the legal definitions is list here, but it could be vision related, hearing related, neurological limitations, learning disabilities, limited movement, speech disabilities, and whether they're affected by age or anything else, they all make it difficult for people, or harder, to interact with contact centers and those kind of operations. And the table on the right there, the image is from our colleagues at We Are Purple, and when we first started talking to them, just seeing some of those numbers really made it hit home. The number of people in the UK with a registered disability or an accessibility need, and one on the right there, 4 million UK consumers have at least 3 impairments that would make contact difficult. The size and scale just hits home how important this is for us. Getting this right can really make a big difference to a lot of people. That's why we care about it so much. Now, we're also, having said all of that, you know, we're working with businesses and organisations here that have to keep an eye on the financial side of it. So the purple pound, as we Purple call it, I think again just pointing out that actually the customer base there that we're talking about has a lot of spending power, and the opportunity cost of not getting this right by industry there. The figures, you know, banks or building societies, 935 million they estimate lost every year in revenue just by not being accessible or inclusive enough. And I think people talk a lot about customer experiences and what that means and what it is, and for us, you know, we work very much in the space where people get in touch with you, and for us, if customer experience isn't what's it like for somebody when they try and contact you, we're not quite sure what it is. That's what matters. That's what makes the difference. But also, we to get projects signed off and to get funding within the business, we do need to be able to make a sound business case for that. So I think if people need to feedback some of these stats, very happy to share them afterwards or send you the links to them. It can really help with that process of getting that backing. Okay, so we wanted to just touch on legislation as well. There's a lot of regulation around it, and some of which doesn't quite go far enough in our view to make this happen, but there are a couple of bits of legislation that really deal with this. The main one being the Equality Act from 2010, in simple terms, is illegal to discriminate, and that as part of that, if somebody has an accessibility need or a disability, then we need to make adjustments to accommodate that. So whether it's alternative contact methods or different channels for people, proactively suggesting solutions to help them make the right choices. Think about financial services or anything else like that, where you've got all that regulation around people being able to make an informed choice and understanding what they're signing in any context. It's really important, and that, making sure they can get the documents, receive them, read them, and understand them is a big part of that. So there is a strong legal aspect to this as well, and I think as we go through, I'll be interested again in those poll conversations that we're going to have, but certainly our own survey sort of touches on where there might be gaps in these areas as well, and people not quite thinking about it. So we will we'll see whether that carries on as well. Okay. So moving into the 5 steps, these are all the parts of the strategies that we support our clients with to improve their accessibility. So we'll look at corporate policy, customer experience technology, customer journey design, agent awareness, and feedback as well. So we'll just go through these one by one. And having said that, we're going to go straight into the first poll question, Chantal.
Thanks, Rick. So the question, if it launches, there we go. Does your organisation have a specific corporate policy or strategy for accessibility in customer contact? So you can choose from yes, no, or don't know. Just give you a couple of seconds to vote on that one. Just a couple more seconds before I close that one off. Perfect, so just close this one off and let's have a look at the results. There we go, so 60% yes, 20% no, and 20% don't know, Rick.
Okay, thanks everybody for taking part in that. I think that's interesting. Doogie, how does that compare with the other survey that we've run?
It was about 50-50 on corporate policy, so 50% do, 50% don't. So pretty, I imagine, I can't say for sure, but I imagine if you don't know, then it's possible that you don't have one, because you don't know about it. It would be.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, because if people don't know that there's a policy, then how do you enact the policy? So therefore it's a bit toothless anyway. So it could be that those things align, and going back to the point about the legislation and the importance of it, if it is 60-40 or even 70-30, don't have a policy to deal with it, then that needs to be in place from a legal. And again, it's always a two ways of looking at this. There's the right thing to do way of looking at it, and there's the we need to be doing it as well for legislation point of view as well. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you, Chantal.
There we go. Sorry, there we go.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So the reasons why we talk about this a lot, and I think we do find it in other, you know, non-accessibility focused customer experience projects that we work on with our clients, is that having a general customer experience strategy and a policy that people are aware of, it gives you the sort of guiding star that you need to align to. Because if people are making changes to the operation in any way, if they don't have that those principles to align it to, it can become a bit disjointed, and then you quite often find a situation where it's not quite working for the business and it's not quite working for the customers as well. So having that clear policy set out, it means the business need to focus on it and acknowledge that it is important and that you're going to do something about it. Then the next step in that is really looking at with the business and to understand who their vulnerable customers are, what moments there are that might create a non-vulnerable customer into one, and making sure that the business is empowered to put in place those adjustments that we're going to need. And that really also, when it from an operational people in the business that are there to get things done point of view, if you want to make those changes and instigate those projects, then if that policy is in place and you know that the business wants to do it, it makes that sign-off process easier, but it also makes the ongoing governance easier as well. Your change control, you have that policy, you can make changes in line to it, and you can ask people to assess whether the change they want to make is in line with that, whether it's going to enhance accessibility or make it harder, and everything else like that. So as you go through that, that's the first one. So if people are not there, I would really recommend that you start to talk to the business about that. Okay, so step number 2, using the right technology in the right way. I'll let Doogie talk about this for a moment.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, good morning again, everyone. So the next step is around technology, as Rick has said. The use of technology in your business can have major positive and negative impacts on how your customers experience interacting with your brand and your employees. So it's for that reason that we stress the importance of not only using the right technology, but understanding that each customer is different and they all have different needs, especially those vulnerable customers that may need a specific journey designed for their disability. In an ideal world, you'd give your customers access to the latest technology across all your contact channels. However, we all live in the real world, and unfortunately, we know this is not practical for a whole raft of reasons. Therefore, all you can do as a business is carefully choose the technology that best serves you as a business and your customers in the most inclusive and best way you can. So going back to that win-win situation, there's no point in putting technology in place that suits you but doesn't suit your customers, and equally that suits your customers but then doesn't suit you as a business. It has to work for both. And if you do that, then you're giving yourself the best chance of delivering a good customer experience. So combining this approach along with specific customer journey designs, which Rick will talk about later, will give you the opportunity to deliver the best experience possible. I'm going to touch on some of the technologies, some of the accessible technology out there in this space that will help your vulnerable customers. These are things like connected dynamic FAQs. So I'm sure you're all familiar with traditional FAQs. They typically sit on a contact us or a help page of a website, and they're very much one-dimensional. Connected FAQs take this experience to the next level. Firstly, by dynamically displaying the relevant FAQs in a pop-up widget, like a live chat sort of widget, for the topic or web page that you're viewing. They also give you as a business important MI around views, interaction, allowing you to continuously improve the effectiveness of these. It's important to think about digital and telephony in this aspect with connected FAQs. Quite often businesses will deploy a digital solution thinking, oh, that's it, we've solved our problem, and forget the connection between the real person in your business and the customer's journey. So it's connected FAQs bridges that gap, because you can take, whenever a customer is going through the FAQ journey, that customer has a route back into a live agent, whether that be through live chat or through the telephone. The information from the FAQs that they've looked at is transferred to the agent before the call or the live chat is connected. So the agent knows and understands what you've tried to find out, but you've obviously not got that information correctly, or we've been unable to help you with the FAQ and you need a little bit more help. But it's about bridging that gap between the two. The next one is
sorry, can I
CCAS.
just add something to that quickly? So I think it's a really important point about the digital first strategy, and a lot of organizations do tend to think that that will solve the problems, but there's a lot of other factors that determine whether people just want to speak to you for reasons of trust or reassurance, or a big one is working through whether that reason for contact is urgent, emotional, or complex. And I think particularly in this scenario, even if you've got the digital option there, you're going to have people that want to break out and reach that live support. And I saw some stats yesterday, as it happens, for one of the big mobile companies who's been investing in digital for 20 years, went very, very big on the web and app development very early on. But even them, having spent all of that money, 5% of their interactions still come through to live support, predominantly on the phone in that case, and for them that's still 120,000 phone calls a day across their European divisions. So there's always going to be that need, and having the connection, there is generally quite a gap in a lot of places between digital and phone, and people get frustrated when they have to start again. They've been through a digital journey, and with those stats in mind, I think this would really, it improves that experience, but it reduces the time taken on the call, it reduces the AHT of that as well. So sorry, I didn't mention that to you before, Dougie, but I saw those stats. I thought they were quite pertinent.
No problem. Okay, so the next one is CCAS, Omnichannel Contact Center as a Service. These platforms are fantastic at connecting all your contact channels into a single view for your agents. This helps to reduce the need for customers to repeat previous contact across multiple channels. There's nothing worse than emailing a company or talking to them on social media, and then you have to pick up the phone and the person on the other end of the phone has no idea what you talked about before, because the social media channel is across the other side of the office, and in great businesses they don't talk to each other. So CCAS platforms connect that together. They also allow you to set flags for specific customers who have accessibility issues, and this opens up doors for automation, direct routing to specialist teams, even bypassing IVR journeys altogether. So, if a flag was set for a customer that has a real need just to speak to someone, they can't navigate an IVR, then there's no point in asking them to do that, because all you're going to do is antagonize them and irritate them further and make that journey and that experience a lot more stressful. So why not just flag that phone number when it calls in, route it straight to a specialist team or a specialist agent that's assigned to those calls that day. The next one is real-time and post-call analytics. Now, this piece of technology will allow you to really understand who your customers are, what they're calling about, and what, if any, accessibility needs they have. We've got a large list of keywords relating to vulnerable customers that can be quickly deployed in the analytics solution, and this will help you to either identify those needs in real time, so popping up for an agent on their screen, or on a post call. Using this technology, you can better serve your customers in the moment and in the future. Finally, the one I would talk about today is visual IVR. I'm going to delve into this in a little bit more detail on the next slide, but first we have another poll question, so I'll hand over to Chantel for that one.
Thanks, Dougie. Let's move that there. Here we go. And that should be live for you. So does your organisation utilise specific technologies to manage or improve accessibility? And again, your options are yes, no, or don't know. So I'll just give you a couple of seconds to vote on that one. Don't forget to post your questions in the chat box at any time, and I'll put your questions to Rick and Dougie. Join in the conversation with us. Just a couple more seconds now. Perfect, thank you. So that poll is now closed, and here are your results. So yes, 78%, no 11%, and 11% no. Over to you, Rick.
That's fantastic. It's great to hear people are doing that, even if there's sounds like more people are using that technology than there are policies in the background. So that's really good to hear. Doogie, how does that compare with the wider survey?
It's a little bit different, 60-40 for using technology against not using technology, or specific technology.
Yeah, okay, that's great. But conversation for another day, but we're really interested to understand what people are using to do that specifically. But that's great to hear. Okay, thanks, Chantal.
Okay, so here's just some ideas about using tech to improve accessibility. You know, technology has moved on and advanced so much over the years that it's now quite easy to identify, manage, and improve accessibility and inclusion needs. You can improve telephony menus, make sure the language is clear, it's well articulated, and spoken at a steady pace. Now, that really isn't just for accessibility. That's something that you should be trying to adhere to all the time. Just because someone doesn't have an accessibility issue, it doesn't mean that they don't need language that's clear or well articulated or spoken at a good pace. There's some software and systems out there that you can install for number recognition, so you can auto route and bypass your IVR altogether. I talked about that before. And voice and text analytics, it can, you know, it just indicates in real time any accessibility needs or vulnerabilities.
I think that's a big step forward in analytics now. Is, you know, post call has been there for some time, but actually being able to send a prompt to an agent in the middle of a conversation to highlight something that they may have missed in a conversation. So if they've spotted somebody taking, you know, a while to understand something or do something about it or make a decision, it could pop up that to the agent who can adapt their conversation. But as well as that, you can prompt the agent and signpost them to support strategies as well. It's something else we'll come on to, but that in the moment analytics is quite powerful.
Thanks, Rick. So visual IVR, some of you may have heard of this, some of you may have not. It's reasonably new technology, not utilised in the UK as much as we would like. It's used a lot in the US. So basically, it delivers a digital self-service alternative to your vulnerable customers, allowing customers to navigate through your menu at their own pace. So in layman's terms, it transfers your IVR menu into a visual menu, if you like, on your smartphone. There's lots of benefits to it. One of these being that it eliminates traditional issues for those hard of hearing. So anyone who is completely deaf can't use your phone system unless they know it off by heart. This allows them to contact you, get the same experience, but a more rich experience, but it allows them to do it at their own pace. There's also video calls in the platform. So if somebody wants to do sign language or a more personalized service, so it may be that customer just really struggles to comprehend or understand what you're saying, and visually, you know, you could show them a product or you can talk them through if there's a difficult document that they need to complete. You know, it could be for a mortgage application or anything like that. You could do that with them via video call, and that's all contained within the platform. It's completely cloud-based, so there's no software that you need to install. It's a full end-to-end automation, so the customer can enter that themselves. They can do what they need to do. They can make a payment and they can finish the transaction without any contact from your business whatsoever. It's multi-channel. It can be delivered across websites, email, digital business cards, however you want to. It's just a link basically. So however you want to display that link or get your customers into that, it can happen. It's a fraction of the cost of taking a telephony call. So if you imagine if your agent's tied up on a call for 20 minutes, half an hour, all it is one connection cost. So the call comes in, or the communication comes in through the visual IVR. It's connected. and that's the cost of it. It doesn't matter if they're on there for an hour or for 5 minutes. It's one cost. Through previous case studies and things that customers that we've dealt with, it has an 80% containment rate. So if we can get people into the visual IVR, 80% of them will stay there and self-serve. Sound like you're going to say something there, Rick?
I was just going to say that's a huge figure, but the really important part of it as well of interviews, that because there is, as well as the visual experience, there is a live call running in the background. If somebody does need to break out and speak to somebody, like we touched on before, having that way out, that it's there and all that information flows as well. So again, if you do get to the point where they need live support, then the information travels, calls quicker, and it's a really, really strong experience.
Yeah, and it's already pre-configured with your typical out-the-box solutions like Salesforce, Zendesk, ServiceNow, all that kind of stuff. So it can be easily deployed and connected to your existing technology. And if we don't have a toolkit for the technology you have, then we can develop that and work with you to ensure that the information travels through into your own CRM or your own platform that you use internally. Okay.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jiggy. Yeah, there's so many use cases for that. Yeah, thank you. So step 3 about journey design. So we do a lot of customer journey design work, and again, this is really where that foundation of the business came from those years ago, which is understanding the blend of technology but customer behavior going through it, and what's really, we're always conscious of the behavior that's going on in here, and the behavior within a customer journey is directly affected by the emotions that people feel during it. So if a customer is stressed and irritated, they're going to come through to agents in that state, and it's a harder call to handle, but also they're not going to interact with the journey effectively at all. They'll just be trying to zero out or reach somebody or say complaint or anything that they think is going to get them answered more quickly. So we need to really understand that throughout journey design, we need to set them up in a way and design them in a way that engages people so that they're calm and that they're relaxed, and they're going to go with us in the journey. And if you create that situation, actually a lot of organizations tend to feel that will encourage contact, but it's completely the opposite in our experience. If you engage people, when you get to that point of having a self-serve opportunity or something that people can do themselves, they will readily take it because it's just a natural thing for them to do. And then if they do come through to people, they're in a better state of mind, the call's easier to handle and tends to be shorter, and the chance of a good outcome from that is vastly improved. And there's a lot of research there. We've got some quotes from Ofcom, which is a really good resource in this area, that shows the needs of disabled and people with accessibility needs find it really difficult interacting with contact centres. So got a few tips on there. You touched on a couple before, but I think always leaving a route out of a self-serve journey. This for me is one of the key areas where an organisation demonstrates its values. I was calling a bank at the weekend, just doing some personal admin. They put a speech recognition system in, and I had to repeat myself 8 times. It wasn't understanding me, and I'd had a flag from the bank saying, "Can I please ring the fraud department?" So looked up the number on the net, got back through to them, was going through their speech recognition, and all I was saying is to report a fraud, and it didn't recognize that, and 8 times before it let me out. Really bad experience, and that's just for me. If there's any other issue going on there, it would make it really, really difficult and stressful and upsetting for people to deal with that. So always having a route out, and because as organizations and firms like ourselves, we're responsible for putting these journeys there. If we take these things and have these as principles when we're designing them, then it really resolves the issue. So having the route out and not making people go through too many repetitions, being clear with the language and instructions, and a big one in telephony is allowing time to respond, and even building in times to pause if you're giving information there, which you can absolutely do now. Again, good practice anyway. If you rush people or they're feeling under pressure, it's very difficult, particularly if there's a reason why it takes them a bit longer to respond and take in the information as well. Give people the option to repeat, and again, thinking about lot of organisations sort of 15 or so years ago some of these early systems were set up to be a barrier to stop people coming through, and there are some of those traits still there. But actually, if you do all of these things, it completely turns it on its head, and it gives people the experience they need. They're calm, they're relaxed, they're engaged. Everything gets better from there. It's a better experience, and it's a cheaper contact to handle for the organisation as well. Always coming back to those two dual goals. So yeah, just moving into next poll question, whether we have a defined.
3, yes, here we go. Oops.
Sorry if I moved on.
Oops, there we go. Bit of a glitch
Good
there.
job
I do
we're not
apologise.
talking about technology, yeah?
Absolutely. Webinar technology excluded.
Yes. So our next poll, the question is, do you have a defined approach or technique to making customer journeys accessible? And as before, you've got yes, no, or don't know answers. Just give you a couple of seconds. It's interesting what you were saying, Rick, with the with not recognising your voice, because it's not even like you've got sort of a thick accent or anything like that. It's quite shocking, really.
Yeah, there's no background noise or anything. It just hadn't been tuned well enough. The recognition on it just wasn't working. And in particular, and that wasn't me calling in. That was the bank that had asked me to call them and put that journey in the way. It's all of these decisions made, and we have to take responsibility for the journeys that are implemented. We really do. Bear this in mind, and really come on to it later in more detail, but experience it as a customer. It's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. So just
welcome to being Scottish.
we tune them all with you, Doogie, don't we? If they're working. Yeah. Okay.
Here we go. Your results. So we've got 63% at yes, 25 at no, and 13 at don't know.
Yeah. Okay, that's really encouraging. We didn't ask this one in the wider survey. We just wanted to check in with people on the call about this one. So that's really good for people that are doing it, or people that aren't quite doing it yet. I'd be very happy to talk through some of the strategies that you can implement and the guidelines on that one. And again, linking that back to the policy, if that approach or methodology is there, change control going forward, you have something to align it to. So really encouraging to see that as well. So moving on to the step 4, the agent awareness and signposting. So we know a lot of people will do training with agents, and this, we started to think about this one about a year ago, through in the middle of lockdown. We have my wife's nan is 98, and she was not seeing anybody. She doesn't see too well herself anyway, and so we wanted to give her a tablet or an ability to video call with people. So we've been working on getting broadband in there for a couple of years, and we finally got there on that. So we're trying to organise this, and Joan had been talking to the telecoms company. My wife and I have authority to speak on the account as well, but they needed to speak to her about accessing the property. And then when she was told it was going through, the person on the agent on the phone said to her, right, of course, now that you've got broadband, we're going to start charging you £3.50 for your printed statements. So they said, oh, right, okay, and came off the phone and called us. Didn't understand it, was quite upset by it. Why did she have to start paying for statements? So we then had to ring them back, and it took 4 or 5 phone calls to get through and speak to the person that was sorting it out. And ultimately, there was a lot of indicators there. Once we'd had the conversation saying, why on earth are you doing this? We've put broadband in because she can't see very well. And they said, oh, right, okay, so large print statements are free, so that's not a problem. So there was an opportunity there for that awareness, spotting the issue. There was a number of signals we felt on that one, the age, the fact we've got authority on the account, and a few other things that could have offered the large statements. But also, so there's the customer calling in aspect to that, but not having been able to spot that, it just increased the demand of phone calls by 300-400% when we had to try and get back through and sort it out. So I think this is a really big factor, and we know it's not always easy to do as well, and particularly remotely like that. And there's a number of harder to spot ones absolutely remote, and that's why we're really keen to encourage and work with people to do that, and really give them agents tools and strategies to actually do something about it. You know, the agents we work with are always very keen to do the right thing and make a difference in general, and are pleased to be able to help people like this. So giving them the ability to spot, but then the ability to actually do something practical to help, you know, they really enjoy having that. And the fact that 4% in general, because this Direct Marketing Association research here, again, another really good resource, was stuck out quite strongly for us. So move on to the next question. Sorry, Dougie, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it goes back to the technology aspect of, you know, if that first person that spoke to you was able to put a flag on your wife's Nan's account, then none of that would have happened. You know, and that flag could then immediately automate large print statements. Large print statements have no charge, therefore there's no need to tell a customer is going to be charged. So, you know, a simple piece of technology and a simple process could have eliminated all that contact and all that stress.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So do something now to prevent those calls. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Chantal, if you could run this one.
Absolutely. So our next poll, do your agents have specific tools and strategies that they can use when they spot an accessibility issue? So again, it's yes, no, or don't know. Just give you a couple of seconds to answer that one. Okay, I'm going to close that one off, and here are your results. So yes, 63, no 25, and don't know 13%.
Yeah, it's very much in line with the last answer actually, around the technology side. So yeah, again, interesting, great that those strategies are in there, but still quite a large gap potentially. And again, just making people aware. And as technology develops as well, what we're tending to find is as you can combine a lot more things into single screens and add your own buttons and customize things as well. If you make it, you know, part of the requirements of either bringing in new or redeveloping existing technology, there's a great deal that can be done there and help people. So again, encouraging numbers. Thanks, Chantal. Okay, so I suppose many of you be aware of a lot of these things. So a big one is those recognizing the signs and then understanding how to adapt the conversation based on that. As you mentioned before, logging it, you know, on the customer record means that next time the person comes in, we can sort of bypass certain things and get through to the right people, and then offering those alternative services we've touched on there, and you know, all sorts of sign language services in particular. We work with a couple of companies that are either putting a lot of sign language on the web or interpretation services, and relating that back to things like visual IVR. That's a great way of connecting those kind of services in at relatively low cost as well. We start to bring it all together. Okay, so step 5 here, internal and external feedback. We're going to go straight into a poll here, please, Chantal.
Definitely. So the last poll, does your organisation actively gather feedback on accessibility related issues from customers and or agents? So again, you've got a yes, no, don't know answer on that one. Just give you a couple of seconds. Perfect. Let's close that one off, and here are your results. So yes, 50%, no 38%, and don't know 13%.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Chantal. Again, this wasn't in the wider survey, so yeah, I think that's really interesting. In general, agent feedback is often not taken as much as customer. Actually, people are out there handling the calls. You know, got a wealth of information, and certainly when we sit down and listen to the calls at the start of a project, very open and honest about how things are working there. So if you can come back to the webinar for me, Chantal, as well. We've just got some thoughts on the kind of questions to ask that will help us there through surveys, and certainly thank you. From customer facing survey points of view, you know, CSAT and NPS are still predominant measures out there and allow an element of benchmarking, but we often find that a lot more actual pragmatic value comes through customer effort. particularly in these areas, asking people just how easy or difficult it was to resolve their query today, and if it's, you know, a high effort area, asking people what was high effort about it. We've done a lot of projects where there's always been a little nugget of information in there. You know, there's a number that stand out for me from people just saying, I called you about this, but it would have really made my life easier if you'd have done this as well. And actually taking that feedback through, feeding it back into the business, and doing something practical with that, and then communicating back with the customers that you have done, really makes that a valued feedback loop there. So if you're not measuring efforts at the moment, you could really tune it to this as well, and those verbatim comments as well. Always a good amount of useful information in there, and people are quite honest if they're taking the time to do a feedback and listening to them and transcribing them, and maybe doing some analytics on it as well will really help going forward. So yeah, really encourage agents. We do a lot of employee engagement surveys and things like that, but actually surveying agents and people in the contact centres about similar issues can add a great deal of value in our experience. Okay, so in summary, the 5 steps that discussed there, and work with our clients really in all of those elements or parts of them, you know, fill in the gaps for people. For a business like us, it either tends to be we come in and work with people where they have a particular skill set that they need for a short period of time, or just a lack of capacity to get some things done that they want to. Very happy to work in either situation, but working on all of those 5 steps will help to create that a really accessible customer contact operation, improve customers' experience, and ultimately reduce cost of contact as well for the business. And we need to not be afraid to talk commercially about this. You know, people do have figures to think about and budgets, and we can be, you know, perfectly open about this, and yes, right thing to do, but let's make it commercially viable as well. And you know, a really big factor is having an independent view on how to use technology. There's so much out there. How do you find the right ones, new ones to bring in, or how do you build accessibility and other requirements into procurement processes, all sorts of aspects like that. And you know, being an independent view with multiple partners and being able to go whole of market, people need us to give that viewpoint as well, and can add a lot of value. And then implementing those other strategies onto that technology in combination works really well. And touched on before about experiencing things from a customer point of view. We always talk about this, and it's such a big factor that a lot of organizations don't seem to do this, and when we go in and we do that through our sort of experience audit processes, are quite surprised at some of the results that come out of that. So you know, we're always looking through everything we do about this idea of engaging to positively influence behavior and making it win-win, so that it does work for everybody. And that's a real foundation of what we do. And that idea sort of really led us to, we've had a general customer experience audit for a number of years now, which looks at all aspects of all contacts channels, and comes up with a, you know, really detailed picture of what's working well, where you can improve, and it helps you understand with a great deal of precision where the investment needs to go, and actually the benefits from that, and a roadmap of improvements. And recently, in this last year or so, we've got so passionate about the subject that we've developed a CX audit focused on accessibility, which looks at the 5 steps there, and so as well as bringing our experience to this through our partnership with We Are Purple, what we actually have, as well as just going through these audits from a customer view ourselves, we have a panel of people with a range of disabilities and people that would have different accessibility needs themselves, that can actually go through those journeys and contribute to the audit. It's unique as far as we're aware, and that combination of their experiences coming in, make it true to life, adds a great deal of value through this process. So once we've done that, we come back and have a dashboard, that idea of, okay, what's it told us, where do we need to focus, what's working really well, let's replicate success as well, because that's the big part of these things, is pointing out what's doing really well, proving that back to the business, saying we need to do more of this, let's replicate this out, but also saying actually there's some issues here, these are causing a problem, it's costing you this much money potentially, so what can we do to sort that out and generate a return on investment at the same time. So if anyone is interested in taking that forward, then do let us know. Just some contact details there, and we're very happy to take any additional questions or thoughts or comments.
That's great. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Doogie. Yeah, if you've got any questions after the webinar as well, please feel free to reach out to either Rick or Doogie directly. As you can see, their contact details are on screen, and I will ensure that they are in the follow-up email that will be sent to everybody as well. So I'm just going to double check here. So just got a couple of questions. Let me have a look. Doogie, I think this one's more for you. So is going totally digital the answer to the accessibility and vulnerability issues?
No, definitely not. Purely for the fact that not every disability can use a digital channel. You know, if you're blind, for example, using a digital channel will be very difficult unless you have very specific technology and software yourself. So what's important is to understand who your customers are, what their needs are, and then designing the technology and the journeys around that so that you can include as many people as possible. One of the things I was thinking about just as the webinar was going on is you see a lot of companies and websites that offer their website in multiple languages. Now, there's a lot of businesses that do that probably don't have many visitors from other languages, or they do it because it's quite easy technology to deploy. It's easy to translate your website. Same thing with accessibility, but it's not as common, and it should be way more common because it's a much bigger issue. So yeah, going digital is not the answer. Being inclusive is the answer.
Yeah, I think that the stats about that telecoms company have put the huge investment in. People ultimately, you know, sometimes just need a connection to that live support, and then so if you're going to have digital, link it together, you know, allow the information to flow. That's a big business benefit of that. And if people get frustrated in our experience by having to start again, there's still so many gaps between digital experiences and a live support, and they don't need to be now. There's plenty of solutions there. So even if, you know, absolutely we understand the need for people to self-serve where possible, but if they don't, when they need to break out for whatever reason, being able to connect it in without having to start again is you know, really efficient from the business point of view and provides that experience as well. So yeah, good question. Thank you.
I suppose it's more of a balancing act as well, isn't it, really? Because if you do one thing, you could be discriminating against somebody else with a different disability in total. So it's being level planed across the board to cater for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's if you can, you know, you're never going to please everyone. You're never going to solve everyone's problem. But if you can do your best to include everyone and offer an alternative contact method for people, then, you know, you're doing everything that you can physically do as a business.
Yeah, I agree. And that, you know, part of that is defining it through that corporate policy element. Actually, what do we mean by this? What does it involve? What are the specifics? If you can get that in there, then again, you can start to work that through and make sure you've solved the issues in the policy. Yeah.
That sort of leads on to the next question, actually. So how do you know which technology to use from everything that's available?
Well,
okay.
Do you want to answer that one, Rick, or shall I?
No, go on. You go on.
Yeah. So that's done through a process, really, because we're technology agnostic. So we would come in, we would do an audit, we would put a design in place, and at the end of all of that and all the strategy work that we would do, we will have a set of requirements, and then we go out to market to find the technology that fits your needs and the requirements as best as possible. So, you know, we have access to all of the latest contact center technology. We have access to other customer contact technology, payment technology. You know, whatever it is you need, we've got developers. We can, you know, there's not a lot that we can't do, but it's very important to specifically choose the one that's going to create that win-win for you and for your customers. And that's done through a process of discovery, design, and implementation, really.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And once you've got that technology that can do it, it's then implementing those design strategies on top of it as well, and maximizing the benefits that brings, bringing it all together. And also, where you do need, different bits of technology from different places, is understanding that up front, and then working on how you're going to make it all communicate and allow that information to flow through it. And again, there's something a lot of experience in to make that happen, because you might not, it's probably less often to find one solution that does everything you need it to do. So there's going to be multiple solutions in there. So then it's making that all flow together seamlessly is a big one.
Yeah, buying technology is quite daunting for any business, especially if it's a new technology and you're going to change everything, fundamentally how you operate. So we can help with that. There's other businesses that can help with that, but it's having that partner in place that can seamlessly make that transition for you is very beneficial. We use the technology every day. We understand it. We help with its design and its development. So that's, but it's important to recognise that it is a daunting experience.
Yeah, certainly can be, can't it?
But we can make it easier.
Yeah. Conscious of time now, Chantal, and also conscious that we could talk about this subject for much longer than we have here. Yeah. If there's any other questions, do you want to drop them over to me, and we can come back to people individually rather than overrunning, so that people have got things to go off and do.
Yep, that's not a problem at all. Again, please take note of Rick and Doogie's contact details if you do think of anything after as well. So yeah, I'm going to close up. So that concludes today's session. I'd just like to thank everybody for taking the time for joining us today. I do hope that you found it informative and thought-provoking. A very special thanks to Rick and Doogie and to the team at Customer Touchpoint. Rick, is the research still available? I will make sure that links in the follow-up email as well for people to participate if they haven't already.
Yeah, it is. We're going to close it down in a couple of weeks, and then we'll feed that into the sort of ebook that we're going to produce shortly. So I'll have that survey in and consolidation of the 5 steps as well. Yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody for attending, and Chantal for hosting us, and yeah, we hope to be in touch.
That's great, thank you. So the session was recorded today. The link will be emailed to you all within the next 24 hours. Please feel free to share this with any colleagues. And we do have a very, very short survey that will appear after the webinar today, just feedback that is valuable to making sure that we keep improving these sessions for you and tailoring them to your needs. For a full list of all the upcoming UKCCF webinars, please visit our events page on our website, www.uk-ccf.co.uk/events. We look forward to welcoming you all again soon. Thank you very much. Stay safe and goodbye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.